Hi, welcome to the Study Skills for VCE Success presentation. I'm Caitlin Halliwell from the Study Space. I've been teaching VCE English for over 12 years, as a teacher at McKinnon Secondary College, head of English at John Monash Science School, and now as a tutor and resource creator for the Study Space. I'm passionate about working with students to help them achieve their goals. I'm about to help you put the balance back into VCE. I believe you can do well in VCE without it taking over your life. So expect to learn how to succeed in VCE without the stress. I'll be covering the top 5 skills for VCE success. So let's get started. My top 5 study skills for VCE success. I want to talk to you about successful habits, the first one being time management. VCE is a big jump from the junior and middle years of school. As a VCE teacher, I often have students complaining about how unprepared they felt for the pressure and workload of VCE, especially that jump between Year 11 and Year 12, which a lot of students find really difficult. The students who cope well are those who have good study habits, so today I'm going to take you through my top 5. So time management is the first successful habit for VCE success. Managing your time so you can get everything done is essential in VCE, especially if you want to feel like you're still having a life outside of school. The best way to do this is with a study timetable. A homework or study timetable doesn't just manage your homework, it manages your time and ensures you maintain balance. Here's how you do it. So firstly, start with an Excel spreadsheet or table. Fill in the time and the date. Now, I start my after-school nights from 3:30 and end them at 9 o'clock because it's important not to be working too late or you'll become unproductive. I also add Saturday and Sunday mornings into my timetable, but I only add a couple of hours in the morning because I find this is a really great time to get up and do some practice essays or some more sustained work. Next thing to do is to block out the hours that you're not at home or that you're not free. So you can see that I've blocked out at the top the hours that I wouldn't be home from school yet. And I've also blocked out times that I work and sport that I might play or other commitments that I have, because you are allowed to maintain a job and your sport as well in your VCE year. It's all about balance and organising your time. Next thing to do is block out dinner time. Obviously, we all need to eat, and if that's time that you'd be having off anyway, it may as well be on your schedule. I actually, when I was at school, would block out, I'd have my dinner time around the time of my favourite shows so that I made sure I got to watch the TV that I wanted to watch as well. The next thing you do is start filling in the subjects that you'll be working on. And what I try to do is I fill in 1 hour in the night time for each of the subjects that I've had that day at school. So obviously if your school has 40 to 50 minute periods and not a lot of doubles, then that might be too many subjects to finish or to cover in one night. So if this is the case, I pick the ones that I'm most likely to get homework from, or the ones that I find the most difficult, that I need the most time to work on. So think about what you have during the day, what you're most likely to get homework for, and also the things that you know take you the longest. Now, I also book in some time off on a Friday night. I find that I'm really unproductive on a Friday night, and so I have that as a night off. And if you know you're using the rest of your time, then you don't have to feel guilty for having some time off on a Friday night. Now, let's have a look at the weekend. Now, I think that you should be able to have plenty of time on the weekends to relax and enjoy yourself. because that balance is really important to make you feel like you're not missing out on lots of things just because you're doing VCE. But what I would do is give yourself a couple of hours in the morning, depending on what time you get out of bed, where you can get some more focused work done. So things like English practice essays, you can actually set aside an hour or even the 3 hours and do a practice exam once a month or something so that you're actually practicing writing for 3 hours. You could set aside that time to do some maths problems. So I've just blocked in 3 hours in each of those mornings, but you can mix and match around depending on the subjects that you have and what you know you could be doing to practice. And this brings us to the most important part of the presentation. So it isn't really just having a study timetable and sitting in your bedroom for hours each night that's going to help you achieve study brilliance. It's what you do when you're working on each subject. So when I start my 1 hour block for a subject, the first thing I do is finish off any urgent homework, particularly homework due within the week or the following day. So I make sure that the first thing I do is get everything organised for the next day and for the remainder of the week. The next thing I do is to work on assessment tasks that I've got coming up or preparation for my next set of SACs. So, just because you've finished any urgent homework that's due that week or the next day, it doesn't mean that you should stop there. You've got 1 hour devoted to your subject. You should spend the whole hour on that subject, because if you're doing this, you're actually getting prepared in advance. Even if you've got assessment tasks that are weeks away, you're dedicating time to it early so that you're really organised and you're giving yourself a chance to build up your skills. The third thing I do once I've finished my homework and I feel under control with my SAC preparation is I work on exam preparation. So it's never too early to start preparing for the exams. And in fact, a lot of the tasks that you get given during the year as school assessed coursework or SACs actually are helping you build the skills you need for your exams at the end of the year. So by spending hours each week focusing on your subjects, even when you don't have homework, you're actually not just keeping up with the work, but you're getting ahead and you're planning long term. You'll be so much more confident going into the exam because you'll be so much better prepared than people who do everything at the last minute. So finish homework, work on assessment tasks or SAC preparation, and then work on exam prep. Doing notes, practice questions, practice essays. Spend that hour that you have dedicated for each subject each night, moving through those 3 things as you go. The next thing I want to talk to you about is using your class time wisely. As a teacher, the number of students that I saw wasting class time and then complaining that they had no time to do anything was astounding. Sometimes I think that as a teacher, when I say things, students hear something completely different. For example, the teacher says, "I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so here's the work I want you to do." And the student hears, "No teacher tomorrow, awesome, no work." Or the teacher says, "Hi, I'm Caitlin, I'll be a substitute teacher today because Ms. Brown is sick. Here's the work she wants you to have done by tomorrow." The student hears, "Hooray, teacher's sick, let's just chat for the lesson." Or when the teacher says, "Okay, class, now we've discussed X, I want you to spend 15 minutes writing about how X relates to Y." The student hears, "Okay, now you've concentrated on my subject for a while, feel free to spend the next 15 minutes working on whatever homework you haven't finished for the next period." I think this is really a trap. You need to try and make sure that when you are in class, you're using your class time, because the more you do in class, the less you do at home. So my tips would be complete all the work that the teacher sets in class wherever possible. Obviously, you're already getting homework from your teacher. You don't want to have to do half the work that is classwork as well as the homework when you get home. Then you're going to feel like you've got no time to yourself at home. It's also important to work in class because this is the only time you get to ask questions of your teacher. So when you're at home working on a task and you've discovered that you're stuck, you don't have an opportunity then to actually ask questions of your teacher. You might email them or text them or tweet them, but they're not working all hours of the day and they deserve a break as well. So use class time, ask questions of them then. I would also take notes in class. So whether your teacher is the type of person who writes notes on the board or whether they spend the lesson talking or whether they have you working on activities and you have class discussions, you should be taking notes the whole way through class because all of these activities are activities that they think are beneficial for you and that allow you to gain the understandings that they're trying to help you gain. So taking notes, using those notes later for your homework and your revision is really important as well. If you finish your classwork early, consolidate your notes or ask your teacher for more work or use that opportunity to ask questions. Remember, the more you do at school, the less you do at home and the less you feel like school is taking over your life. The next thing I want to talk about is focus. So maintaining focus when you're studying is crucial, and that's why where you study matters. What you need to do when you're finding a place to study at home is to make sure that you've removed yourself from noise and distraction. So a bedroom or a dedicated study is the best kind of place for you to be. You need to have a desk or workspace where all of your study things live so that you're not having to interrupt your train of thought to go and get pens or get paper or go and find something that you need. Try and surround yourself with things like study notes and aids or diagrams, timetables. This way, when you're working, you can be looking up and seeing your English quotes, and it will help you remember things if you've got that visual image in your mind and you're becoming really familiar with it. You need to have a filing system so that you can find things. And really what it comes down to is don't study in a family space or a living area that has a lot of noise and distraction. And don't study in a space that's too hot or too cold because this can impact on how well you're able to concentrate as well. So not only does where you study matters, but the way that you study matters. And focus comes down to removing all distractions. So I'd like to take this opportunity to assure you that despite what you might think, there is not such a thing as multitasking. Multitasking is not a thing. It doesn't exist. Don't think you can do it and get away with it. So my advice when dealing with multitasking is to switch off, shut down, and put on silent. I think as a teacher, I've seen so many students coming into school exhausted because they've been up all night responding to texts, trying to get work done. And what they find is that they don't get enough sleep, and then it becomes a vicious cycle because you're so tired that you can't focus, and then things spiral out of control. So, my advice to you is that sleep is important. Keep your phones out of the bedroom, but also keep your phones out of your study space. Even if you have a laptop computer for school and you need to use it for some of your homework, I would be logging out of any sort of chat or Facebook or any sort of social media that's likely to distract you. And perhaps even do all your paper-based homework first. So focus on the things that you can do without the computer before you actually get onto the computer. Really, the key here is to focus only on the task at hand because it will save you time. What I find is that people do 3 things at once and they think that they're managing quite well, but then they realize that it's actually taken them 3 hours to do one essay for English because they've been so interrupted the whole time. Focusing on one thing at a time actually helps you achieve every goal quicker, and therefore you'll have more time at the end of the night to get on to social media or chat to your friends or do whatever it is that you like to do, whatever your hobbies are. The next thing I want to talk to you about is organisation. Now, being organised means using all the time at your disposal. So, taking good notes in class and consolidating your learning all year round rather than just in the study period at the end of the year will certainly help you succeed. When it comes to taking notes, there are a whole lot of great ways to make connections between concepts and ideas that will help you consolidate this information in your mind. Things like mind mapping, um, flow charts, both of these things are really great for visual learners and are good things to go up on the wall in your study space to help you connect ideas in your head. Diagrams are another really visual way to help you consolidate information. Um, and something to be aware of, and maybe do some Googling about note taking templates to find something that works for you if you haven't found something already. There are different ways to take notes in class or to reorganize your notes to help you learn them and to make them more efficient. So, have a think about how you take notes and how often you take notes, and if there is a way that you could be using these notes more effectively. One thing that I find works for a lot of students is to actually have a notebook um, for each subject for your notes in class, or a folder with loose leaf split into sections. And then I have an entirely different notebook or section that is the place where you consolidate your class notes into more condensed, shorter, concise notes that you can then study from, where you're highlighting the quotes that you think are important that you want to remember, or where you're highlighting particular facts or formulas that you're going to need to use in your exam. So don't just take notes in class, but when you get home, actually look at consolidating those notes or working with them to consolidate that information. The next thing I want to talk to you about in terms of successful habits is motivation. So sometimes it's tough to maintain your motivation, and finding balance by managing your time, I think, is half the balance. But also sticking to things when they get tough is important. So if you're having trouble with a problem or an assignment or an essay, keep going. Force yourself to do what you can do and to get something down in writing, because then the next day when you go into your teacher to get feedback or to get help, they've got so much more to work with if they can see where you were struggling and if they can see what you've managed to achieve on your own. So if things are getting tough, don't put down your pen and push your notebook away. Actually, keep going, because you might find that you either find the solution yourself, or certainly what you end up with will be much better than if you gave up. Another thing that I find is often really helpful is study groups. So this is a way to help you keep motivated. If you can stay focused when working with your friends, then maybe a study group at lunchtime or after school is a great way to help each other out and make it a bit more fun while you're at it as well. Looking after yourself during VCE is actually one of the very best things that you can do. No one's ever succeeded when they were overtired, burnt out, or feeling really sick. So you need to keep doing the things you enjoy, things like sport or working or having nights out with your friends. And you need to look after yourself. So you need to eat well, you need to get enough sleep. It's only when you're kind to yourself that everything will fall into place. So remember, you can have a life. VCE is not just about studying, it's about finding that balance, and it's really important that you do. I hope this presentation's been useful. As I said, this is an adaptation of the presentation I did for the VCE Expo in 2015, and please feel free to join us at the study space on Facebook, Google+, or at our vceenglishhelp.blogspot.com.au for free tips and hints. You can also visit the Study Space website for English resources, tutoring, essay feedback, and study skills help.